Good afternoon, and greetings from Casablanca, Morocco. My name is Marissa Scott-Torres, and I serve as the U.S. Consul General at the American Consulate in Casablanca. I sit in the historic map room of Villa Mirador, where President Franklin D. Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill met during the AMFA conference, where allies strategized against the Axis powers in 1943 and promulgated the principle of unconditional surrender, ultimately leading to the end of World War II. It is a fitting place to discuss history and how it is viewed through those who write it, and helps us to understand why the pen is indeed mightier than the sword. We have learned over and over from history that it is not what is stated, but what is unsaid that warrants investigation. It is what is unseen and what is hidden that demands uncovering. And what is not written must be written. And when that information is wrong, we must give an account for history and the past. When Professor El Idrisi asked me to give remarks for this celebration of Black History Month, I jumped at the chance, especially as I had just finished reading Leila Lalami's The Moors Account, a vibrant documentary fiction of Estebaniko's, or Mustafa ibn Zamur's, life in Morocco and in the New World. As a literature major in college, I studied slave narratives like those of Harriet Jacobs, Frederick Douglass, and Alauda Equiano. In these narratives, former enslaved persons wrote about the institution of slavery and its effect on their person, community, and the nation. Lalami's take on Estebaniko is more of a travel narrative. What I did not know was that Estebaniko, Mustafa, had already traveled through the southern region of the United States a century or more before these slave narratives were written. Lalami's documentary novel gives voice to Mustafa's life, providing us a narrative with a pivotal perspective on the history of the New World that highlights the power, authority, and influence that Mustafa both wields and is subject to. In his essay, Muslims of Early America, historian Sam Hasselby writes of Muslims in early America more than a century before Protestants, and how this history has been erased from history books, which is of no surprise if you are the underrepresented and marginalized other. What is surprising, though, is what was known and intentionally effaced. The Moors conquered the Iberian Peninsula in 711, a conquest that would almost last 8 centuries and leave countless architectural and linguistic legacy on the peninsula. In fact, more than 5,000 words in the Spanish language are of Arabic origin. So when Mustafa becomes enslaved by the Spanish in early 16th century, there is no mistake of his background. There's only the assumption that his skin color makes him inferior. Perhaps the Spanish feared his religion, as they had to fight to expel Muslim rule of the region. Several years prior to Mustafa's capture, in America, we learned that Christopher Columbus famously sailed the ocean blue. Hasselby notes that when Columbus's interpreter, a Spanish Jew, spoke to the Taino peoples of Hispaniola, he did so in Arabic, not just the language of Islam, but the religion itself likely arrived in America in 1492. Estebaniko's will had to be resolute to not just outlive, but to also outwit those around him in the New World. Do not believe this to be coincidence, that he survived when 296 others did not. This is the ultimate survivor story. His story is history. Mustafa's story should inspire all of us to be open to the truths about history and in turn the truths about ourselves. How many other stories are out there ready to be seen and unearthed? As a U.S. diplomat, part of my mandate is to showcase the plight of those who are systematically marginalized and disenfranchised by whatever powers that be. The Department of State's Equity Action Plan provides guiding principles for reducing barriers to equity and equality around the world through diplomatic engagement, foreign assistance, and public diplomacy. This plan includes promoting inclusion in decision-making and economic growth, supporting access to justice and human rights, and fostering advocacy. Our goal is to engage these communities as stakeholders in policy formulation, program development, and implementation. Did you know that the US, Mexico, and Canada signed a trilateral declaration on equity and racial justice in December 2022? The declaration addresses systematic forms of discrimination and honors the diverse tapestries of histories, cultures, languages, identities, ethnicities, abilities, and beliefs that make North America strong. Yes, it is a tall order, and one that we take on freely, knowing the traumatic history of the United States. We cannot claim to be perfect, but we can continue to seek a more perfect union. Estebanico embodies the spirit of America: courage, determination, independence, and the pursuit of happiness. There's a little there's a little Mustafa in all of us. Thank you.